Welcome back to Viewer's Voice. It's been a little bit, I'll be honest. I either been at like work or doing something different, to be honest. So I've been very slow on uploads. Haven't uploaded something since like maybe February at best. So I'm gonna try to come back and be more consistent because that's honestly that's why I preach all the time. I mean, if I can't at least preach the advice I'm giving, that makes no sense. So I do gotta be preaching and actually abiding by what I say, which is consistency for whoever wants to get what they want to get done. Right, that's one of the biggest keys to success is staying on top of your grind, your filming your creation. Right. So today I want to bring you guys a part 2 to emotional intelligence. Now I want to do that because it's been one of those things where I've been seeing some people be conflicted in, whether it be myself at times where I don't fully understand something, or people who I notice don't fully understand themselves. So there's a lot of ways you could define emotional intelligence, but I feel like one of the easiest ways to do so is so long as they're an empath, you kind of already have it, or you already have like a decent understanding of what emotional intelligence is. So for any of those who played or seen the third Life is Strange True Colors, you know what the empath is, right? Her power to be able to feel other people's emotions and have it pretty much intensify her own emotions or feel the intensity of their emotions, that's pretty much what an empath can do. So the same way they display that as a superpower, that's why I also say people that are empaths kind of have that superpower in a way, because some people don't even understand that. It's kind of hard to understand that, because what do you mean you feel my emotions the same way I feel my emotions, if not a little bit stronger, right? It sounds a little crazy. However, there are people out there who are capable of doing that and more. So let's say you are struggling with something and you're feeling either depressed, very upset, whatever array of emotions you may be feeling. Whoever you tell that to, if they're an empath or they have a really deep understanding of what emotions do to you and where they originate from and how they just like disperse into different, like a web pretty much, they'll have a really good idea of what you're feeling. Now, I try personally not to say, if I'm talking to somebody, I understand what you're going through, because obviously you can never fully understand what someone's feeling despite how well of understanding you have of emotions, because you're not them, you're not in their shoes, whatever. Even if you experience a similar situation, you can never fully understand what they're feeling. However, you can get a great grasp or idea and understanding of what it could be. Whether or not you've actually been in their shoes or that position, you can actually get a pretty good idea just simply understanding the raw emotions and the elements that go into it. So the reason why I say it's a superpower is because it's a really good thing, and it's a really great tool if you have it to helping others. Because honestly, the people that don't understand themselves, since you can feel their emotions, you can kind of piece together what they may be thinking or what they may be feeling and give them something to understand, right? But the biggest like obstacle in the way for that, and I feel like people aren't understanding what they feel, is because they don't look inwards enough, right? And I want to preach this because like you have to look in at times, no matter how hard it may be, how confusing it may be, how difficult. You have to look in if you're ever gonna find any answers, right? You don't always want to be the kind of person to look outward or look towards someone else, especially when it comes to things about you, right? If someone tested me or gave me a quiz and said, what are 15 things you could tell me about yourself, and have maybe five of those things be physical, five of them be some emotional things, and another five be some really articulated things that you can only know about yourself, I can't go and ask multiple different people to tell me, because that's not their job. That's not something that they should know or that I would expect them to know. There's things like I know about myself. Now I understand this conversation can be difficult for some, and I mean a lot of us haven't had this conversation with other people. So who's to say we can pull ourselves to be honest with ourselves to have that conversation? But you have to have it at some point. No matter what age you are, no matter what part of life you are, you have to have this conversation with yourself. And if someone wants to have this conversation with you, allow them to. Because only so many people actually care about you and understand you enough to want to take time to really dissect your brain, dissect how you feel, and dissect what you think. Now, I was kind of having this conversation with a friend because, like, me personally, I'm just going to be honest, I don't care for small talk. Small talk, the way people go about it, it hardly leads off into bigger conversation. And let alone me talking about my day, your day, almost always isn't going to get us anywhere. If we actually sit down and have a conversation simply about honest things with each other, we can actually build a relationship to where it's like I understand you more and vice versa, right? So like I said, I'm not really a fan of small talk. I don't really care for the little ins and outs of whatever you want to talk about. I don't, unless it's really deep and honest and allows me to grow more with you. That's the majority of what I care about. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we can't just sit down and relax at times, but believe me, right? I don't want to be that friend that just lets you hold yourself back or allows me to hold myself back in any way. That's not fair to each other. So, like I said, I'm all for difficult questions. One of the difficult questions is people talking about themselves because it makes them feel vulnerable, maybe uncomfortable at times, whatever they may feel, right? And a huge part of that, like I said, people don't look inwards enough. So if you're not looking in enough, you can't really see what's going on in your head or within you. You're not gonna understand how that conversation can go or how to navigate that conversation, right? But that's something like it's important to have. If someone actually comes up to you and wants to talk about these things, allow them to. I don't mind taking charge to navigate the conversation. I understand it's a difficult topic, and a lot of people aren't going to have this conversation with you. However, I don't want you to be held back or at a loss when it comes to figuring things out simply because you haven't given it much thought. But the problem is, you can't be one of the people that refuses to give it thought. You know, whether you're just someone that doesn't take the accountability for themselves, victimize themselves too much, doesn't give themselves any worth. You can't be one of the people that just refuses to help, because at that point, people are gonna want to retract their hands. You know, so it's like I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are all for helping you, but be honest with yourself. How often have you steered them away by telling them I'm fine or something like that? You claiming that you're fine when you aren't. Isn't you being intelligent? It isn't you being smart. Any of that. But while I'm talking about words and all that stuff, another thing is that I like to say is it's also about verbiage. So if you're talking about yourself or to yourself in certain tones, in certain ways, make verbiage is a big part. Don't call yourself dumb. Don't call yourself any of these things. There's a better word to define it. So let's say you're the type of person who calls yourself dumb for that reason, simply because you don't understand something, you don't know something, so on and so forth. You aren't dumb. You're just uneducated, right? You're uneducated on the topic. It doesn't make you dumb. It doesn't make me dumb for not knowing the things I don't know. It just makes me uneducated. I'm very positive that you know an array of things that the next person might not, and vice versa. That person may know an array of things that you might not. But neither are dumb in the situation. You are both just simply uneducated on certain and specific topics. So if you're thinking to yourself like, man, I don't know this, that, whatever, I'm just a dumb person. No. You're uneducated, and that's fine. People are taught differently, and people will understand and come across information very differently. So just because you weren't exposed to something doesn't make you dumb, right? So the reason why I could talk about certain things like this, for instance, is because I've been exposed to it to the point where I could at least share with other people. I'm not saying I'm excellent at it, none of that, but I have a great understanding to the point where it's like I can at least give what I know to other people, so that at least if they want to start off thinking or like really growing on something like this, they have somewhere to start, where they're not just kind of coming up with the ideas themselves. And even then, I know something like this, but I might not be able to understand football or science or whatever as the next person. That's something that they might have over me, but simply because they have that, it doesn't make me dumb, and because I have this over them, it doesn't make them dumb, right? Another thing you gotta think about too is you never want to describe yourself by the things that you can't do. But at the same time, you don't want to give yourself little credit for what you can do. So what I mean by that is, let's say, if I'm talking about myself, I could say right now, there's so many things I don't know how to do. Obviously, I don't know how to perform surgery. I don't even know how to change, I don't know, like wires in an electric circuit, some things like that, right? There's things I don't know how to do, and there's things that the next person doesn't know how to do either. But what we're not going to do is sit here and describe ourselves by what we can't do. No one does that. Think about Greek mythology. When you think of a god or something like that, you define them simply on their best feat. You think of Hercules, you think of his strength. You don't think of how he can't run fast like Hermes. You don't think about how he's not the god of the sky like Zeus. You don't think about things like that. You think about his best attribute, his best strength, and those for whoever else is in Greek mythology, such as Hermes. You think of his speed. He's a god of messaging because of his speed and his ability to traverse at such great lengths in a quick amount of time. You are not going to talk about, oh, he's not the strongest god there is. Oh, he's not the smartest god there is. He doesn't have to be. He has his best quality, and that's what he's known for. So when you think about yourself, you should be thinking about your best qualities and not things that you can't do. There's so many things that you could pin against yourself, but you shouldn't. You know? So it's like, let's think about this as well. Certain compliments and insults have like a cancel out ratio. So let's say like for you, it would take 4 insults to cancel out 1 compliment, and for the next person, it'd be vice versa. It could take 1 insult to cancel out 4 compliments. Think about it within yourself. Think about what you can do compared to all the things you can't. You don't want that to either cancel it out or outweigh it. Give the magnitude and amplify the thing that you can't do above anything that you can't, because it shouldn't hold anything against you for not being able to do something or to achieve something. And if it does, well, then just figure out how to do those things that you just simply can't do, so that you no longer have something to pin yourself against or pin against yourself, or just simply hold above yourself and just feel so worthless thinking like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Don't allow those negative things to really overtake the positives. And at the same time too, never let someone else's image of you be your image of you. So let's say someone has a very negative, horrific image of you. Your image of yourself should be the complete opposite. All those negative things that they're thinking about you, your image of yourself should be the complete flip-flop version of that. And even if someone thinks great and highly of you, your image of yourself should be better than what they think. Never let someone else define you. Never let someone else shape your path, whatever. People can help you, but you have to help yourself and navigate a way for yourself. But to just simply brush it off and neglect your own well-being and so forth isn't a positive way to do that. I understand it's something that we tend to do when we tend to, crawl up into our shells or just take comfort in certain things. But like I said in previous videos, your comfort is your cage. Staying confined to certain things will limit you from actually being able to spread your wings and grow. You never want to stay confined to anything. Never let anything discourage you from going out there and being who you should be and can be. But that's going to be all for this video. I just had to come back and actually upload something for once, since I've been taking a very long time from doing so. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for listening. I'll see you guys in the next one.